Alright, so we're going to continue to looking at solving for variables, but this problem is just going to be a little bit different. If you notice the instructions, it says solve for y in terms of x. And if you take a look at this equation, so far we've only been dealing with equations that have one variable, and this equation you should notice has two. We should see 6x plus y equals negative 12x minus 2y plus 8. So you can see there's both an x and a y. Once we get into chapter 2, we'll start working on solving systems of equations and how to find both of those variables. But for this particular problem, when it says solve for y, this first part just means that our answer, whenever we get finished, should be y equals something. Now, when we do these problems, we're used to having y equals a number, like y equals 2 or y equals 4 or something like that. However, if we look at the rest of the instructions, it says in terms of x. So what that means is our answer is not going to be fully solved. We're not going to be able to have some neat little number at the very end. Instead, we're going to have an expression. So for example, we might have y equals 5x plus 20, or y equals 2x minus 10. So we're not going to be able to find the exact value for y in terms of a number, but we're going to rearrange this equation so that I end up with y equals. So another way to think of this problem when it says solve for y in terms of x is just rearranging this so all my y terms are on the left and y is by itself. So that way at the end we get y equals. So to get started, if I look here on the left-hand side, I should notice that this 6x doesn't belong because, again, my goal is to get y equals. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this 6x over. Again, anytime we move anything across the equal sign, we've got to do the opposite. And notice I'm only subtracting this 6x from my x term because 6x is not a similar term to the y and the 8. So we're only combining like terms there. So we got y equals negative 12x minus 6x is going to give us negative 18x. And then I still have my negative 2y and plus 8. So right now we do have y equals, but the only issue here is that there is a y term on the other side. So we need to move this y term over to the left to make sure we combine all of our terms. So this is not going to be our final answer just yet. So again, the next step is to add 2y, because again, I'm going to the other side of the equal sign, so I'm going to add 2y here. I'm going to cancel on the left, which gives me 3y equals negative 18x plus 8. And then I'm going to have one final step because, again, remember my goal, if I'm solving for y, I need y equals. So I've got to keep going here because right here I've got 3 times y and I just want one of this. So I'm going to have to divide by 3. The only tricky here thing is when we divide by 3, we're dividing the entire equation, the entire left-hand side and the entire right-hand side by 3. So we have to be careful in that we divide both of these terms by 3. Again, the reason being is we are taking almost, you can think of it, we're taking a third of this equation. So we need to divide the entire right and the entire left side by 3. So that does leave us with y. So we've got y equals negative 18 divided by 3 is just negative 6x plus, and again, if you have a calculator, you could plug that in to get a decimal. It will be repeating, so you'll have to round. So we can just leave this as 8 over 3 if we want. And here is our final answer. Y equals negative 6x plus 8 thirds. So again, this answer isn't as pretty, you could say, as when we're solving for a variable and getting like y equals 5 or y equals 10. But what we have done is we've taken this initial equation, we've rearranged it so that way we have solved for y, and then in terms of x means we are defining y based on whatever x equals.